and welcome once again as we move through the decades to celebrate Age Concern Auckland's 75th anniversary. And now we're right up to the 1970s, a period of real societal change. Some of the big things that were happening then, we know that over in Europe, the United Kingdom finally joined the common market. And what has that got to do with life here in New Zealand? It meant that we didn't have access to the British market for our agricultural products. And all of a sudden we had to diversify our economy. And that was the start of New Zealand finding its real place in the world and its part in an Asia-Pacific region. But it was also a time of mass protests on the street, whether or not those protests were against the continuing Vietnam War and New Zealand's participation in that, or whether it was against French nuclear testing in the Pacific Ocean. But importantly, when we think of the people who were on the streets of Auckland and Wellington and Christchurch back in those heady days of the 1970s, those people who were fighting for change, what they were doing was they were standing up as the youth, as the young people of their time, believing firmly that the future was theirs. The older people at the time, they'd come through the Second World War. Their life was about discipline, about order. And there was a real diverse meeting of minds. It was hard to form those bridges. But let's not forget that those 1970s firebrands are now our older people today. Those 25-year-olds that were on the streets marching with their placards are now the 75-year-olds who are reaching out for help from the likes of Age Concern. But let's not forget, it was those young people, those people who protested, those people who basically said, it is not only okay, but it is our right to stand up to say, we think differently, we believe something else. Today, we see that as well. We see that with young people. We see that with people marching in support of stopping the detrimental impacts of climate change. Only recently we saw that with people marching to ensure that Maori had the rights they deserve. And these things were made possible because we changed society. And so those people who are now in their 70s, they deserve our thanks. They created the pathway. They created the means by which we could stand up and say, we want to do things differently. Here at Age Concern, we want things to be different for all older people. Those people who are older today, who were the young 20-somethings in the 70s, but also for all older people in years to come. We want to change society now. We want to make things different. We want to get rid of abuse and neglect. We want to make sure that those 10% of older people who experience such things don't have to in the future. We want to stop those 20% of all older people who are lonely and isolated, feeling those detrimental impacts on their physical and their mental and their emotional well-being. We want to ensure that everyone has the right to be respected and valued and fully participate in culture. We want everyone to stop ageism in its tracks. We need you to help us with that. We need you to work with us at Age Concern. We need you to stand up for what's right, and we look forward to you supporting us on our journey. Let's make sure that after being here for 75 years, that Age Concern in Auckland can be here for another 75 years to make sure we continue to advocate for the rights of all those people who are maybe a little bit older in years. It won't be easy, but we've got to do it. Those people who stood on the streets in the 1970s gave us the pathway. They told us it was okay to protest, so let's protest for them today. Thank you, and we'll talk again soon.